O Ministro da Educação de Ontário voltou a convocar uma conferência de imprensa especialmente dirigida aos mídia comunitários. No encontro virtual que decorreu recentemente, Stephen Lecce abordou diferentes tópicos, nomeadamente novas ajudas para os pais da província. O Correio da Manhã Canadá também marcou presença. Acompanhe.
The Premier and I and Minister Phillips announced the support for learners. This is about giving over $300 million directly in the pockets of working moms and dads. It's been tough, this pandemic, especially on young kids, with childcare costs, with technology, obviously software, learning materials, especially for young kids. I mean, when you consider the costs on a parent during this pandemic, the government believes anything we can do incrementally to make life affordable is the right thing to do, especially ahead of the holidays. So we're encouraging all Ontarians to sign up at ontario.ca/support for learners. It's online, it's automatic and automated through your banking. It takes about 2 weeks once you're verified to get the cash in your account. So this is important. We'll keep building on this. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And with that, why don't we start the questions?
Thank you, Minister Lecce, for this opportunity. So I know that many of us might already know the answer to my question, but still I think it's causing some confusion among my Portuguese audience. So I would like to ask to what exact extent is the lockdown in Toronto and Peel region impacting the education system?
You know, our commitment is to keep students and staff safe. We made the difficult decision to lock down Toronto and Peel on the public health advice that it will help reduce community transmission. The lockdown in those communities and the higher restrictions moving many other regions up in the framework, what it does is it allows us to keep schools open, because by acting province-wide, by imposing those restrictions, it will help us reduce transmission in the community, which will only help improve the safety of our schools. We're going to be getting the data on the first 2 weeks. As you know, 2-week cycles are when we get a lot of information in the next week. We'll be evaluating that to see how and if it has been helping improve safety in schools. But obviously, we expanded asymptomatic testing. It didn't matter. In addition to what we did province-wide, in addition to the lockdown measure, in addition to reducing social bubbles, in addition to restricting so many regions, we still announced asymptomatic testing. We still announced additional money for every school board, stabilization funding to combat COVID-19. We did that in addition to, it wasn't a choice. We chose all of the above, and we're going to continue to take action within the Ministry of Education, new investments and more supports to keep schools safe. But obviously, we are very concerned about community transmission, and that's why I strongly support the restrictions we've made province-wide. And I know the Premier is committed to seeing us reduce the rate of transmission in the community, so that to the earlier question about the vaccines, that we're able to get people vaccinated, immunized, and return to some normalcy, which I think is really important for Ontario.
Okay, thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good to see you.
Andre Horwath tweeted and she said that outbreaks in Ontario schools are worse than anyone imagined. Doug Ford is trying to save a buck by doing very little in-school testing and is giving this awful virus a place to hide. How would you react to her concerns of the outbreaks in schools as well as the in-school testing for COVID-19?
Well, look, first off, I don't think it's the time to be politicizing COVID-19, nor is it a time to create fear in the hearts of parents. Let's look at the facts. Our plan leads Canada with the single largest investment, period. We have the most comprehensive plan according to the Chief Medical Officer of Health and according to leading medical experts who believe the layers of prevention we put in place in this province are helping to reduce transmission. In schools, roughly 85% of schools in this province do not have a single case of COVID, period. 99.9% of students, including those children in Thorncliffe Park, are COVID-free, and 98% have never had COVID in the province. We have 4,800 schools, nearly 5,000 schools, of which there are roughly 6 closed province-wide. We're not an island of ourselves, right? We're part of a global reality of COVID-19, a second wave that has hit every economy, industrialized economy in the world. And even still, with rising community transmission, we still have 99.9% of students COVID-free, and we still have a plan that has fundamentally allowed 1.5 million children to go to school each and every day with a fully funded plan, fully endorsed by the Chief Medical Officer of Health of Ontario. So we are very aware that the risk is not in our schools, the risk is within our community. And community transmission, the rising rate of COVID in our community poses a direct threat to schools. I have said this from the summer. The risk within our school is reflective of the risk within our community. So we have to take action province-wide to reduce community transmission, which is precisely what we're doing. Restricting and locking down Toronto and Peel, for example, tough, necessary decisions. Why do we do that, folks? Why did we do that? Why did we make the difficult decision ahead of Christmas to lock down 2 large regions, to restrict many others, including York Region and other fast growth regions of the GTA in Ontario? Because for this government, for Doug Ford, schools, seniors, vulnerable people are what matters, and we'll continue to put them first.
Hi, Minister. Just wanted to ask about the pilot testing program. Will that be rolled out to more communities in the GTA that need it?
Yeah, thank you, Pandora. We have a plan in fact, we funded our plan to include it in Toronto, in Peel, in York, as well as in Ottawa. The funding is about $23 million allocated in the summer. We had the forward thinking to know that there would be a need for this type of asymptomatic testing, essentially testing students who do not have any symptoms, but who may be in a community or a school or a classroom with a high rate of positivity. So we're really trying to surveillance test. We're really trying to target students to say, look, if there is any carriers of COVID, but do not have any symptoms of COVID, how do we build a plan that tests them, essentially identifies the case, isolates the case before these young people could spread to other young people, to their teachers, and of course, to their families, particularly intergenerational families, like is the case in Thorncliffe Park for many families, where they're living with their parents and grandparents. So it's really important we launch this program, and we'll follow the public health advice. If the Chief Medical Officer of Health says, look, we want to expand it to other regions, we want to change the list of regions, as I've said, I will move quickly and without reservation because I believe in the merits of this program. And I think it's going to help us add another layer of prevention, another step in our plan. There's no province in Canada that has announced asymptomatic testing. We've already done it in multiple schools, and there is no plan in this country to unveil it in another province as of today. So we are leading. We will continue to build it up based on the recommendations of the public health table, the Chief Medical Officer. If they encourage that, we'll do it.
My question is, I just was thinking, I'm not bring this question or the issue to you, not only for me, on behalf of the ethnic media, whoever not here, as I am one of the vice presidents of the Ethnic Press and Media Council of Canada, because we get, in this situation, COVID-19 situation, our publications, our publishing activities, very tough. Okay, we seek advertisements from provincial and federal. So COVID-19 ads are, we are getting in a very small scale. So why don't you instruct or advise the boards of education in your province or in any regions to allocate a small portion of funding to offer or grant advertisements to the ethnic media?
I appreciate the importance of ethnic media. I've been a long-standing advocate of supporting third language media because when I worked in the federal government for Prime Minister Harper, this was a way of life. And I know that you're providing an essential service to so many people who are reading about government, programs, protocols in their own language, in their first language. And for so many people, for immigrants, newcomers, and for many of our seniors, this is important. So the government of Ontario, under the Premier, he is directed, and I know Rudy as well in his capacity as the parliamentary assistant to Treasury Board, this has been a priority to make sure that we finally equalize advertising for ethnic media, because I think for too long, you haven't received a fair share. So we're taking action in the province, and within school boards, absolutely, we can encourage them to look for ways to communicate in third language press, which means using ethnic media and advertising when appropriate in ethnic media. So I take the point, we'll continue to promote it, because I think for Rudy, for myself, for the Premier, we're committed to seeing your sector get through COVID-19, and more importantly, we're committed to equity in advertising.
Good afternoon, Mr. Minister Lecce. So my question is regarding the coming holiday season. We know, Christmas, the season is probably like 3 weeks ago, or 3 weeks away. So now the Peel region and the Toronto city is in lockdown. So would you consider, maybe to start the holiday season for the school a little bit earlier, or maybe extending it a little bit, just to support the general lockdown? I understand the rationale for keeping the school open, but, by, an earlier, start of the season or extending it, I think this could effectively help with the, the lockdown and to bring down the cases a little bit faster.
Yeah, no, we proposed that idea to the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and the recommendation was that at this time that is not needed. The concern was that potentially high school students, when they're home alone, often their parents would not be home. There's a less accountability and structure to keep them isolating, to keep them distant from their peers. So the assumption, Jerry, is that if we send them home, where most parents are working, that students are not going to be congregating and playing together and chilling together and doing stuff together. And that assumption, I think, is challenged because a lot of young people we're seeing are doing that based on the positivity rate amongst 14 to 17-year-olds being so high. So the concern from the Chief Medical Officer of Health is, look, by sending them home and hoping that they follow the rules is less beneficial than sending them to school with structure, with accountability, with a teacher for the majority of the day. So I hear your point. We did propose that concept, but the medical officers and the Chief Medical Officer believe strongly that at this time, right now, and as his advice has been, it actually would be better to keep them in schools so long as each child seriously screens before they re-enter based on any symptoms. As you know, we have a very expanded symptom list, as well as gets tested if they have any symptoms. So that's going to be important. If any advice changes, well, of course, we'll be out there to announce a change. But at this point, based on the progress made of keeping kids safe, 99.9% of students, after all, like we focus on these numbers, of cases, 21 cases at Thorncliffe Park, but we have put it into context, colleagues. We have 2 million children in Ontario, of which, of student cases, since the day we opened office, we have under 4,000 cases, cumulative, all in, add them all up, province-wide. I'm not diminishing how much angst or pressuring or difficulty it is for those parents, for that school, for that community, for that teacher. But statistically, when you have 99.9% of students COVID-free, I think what it underscores that our staff, our public health units, everyone is working together to make sure that schools remain safe. And that is so important for our kids, for their mental health, for their future success. So we're going to continue to follow public health advice, and if it changes, we will make that announcement known.
My question is that in view of the recent lockdown and all that, is there a possibility that the students will be going online 100%? And have you planned for something like that? And are you prepared, as we see that there have been challenges so far?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Several weeks ago, I guess actually it was probably early October, I sent a directive out to all school boards that we have to be ready for that. not because I want to go there, not because anyone thinks we're going to go there, but to your point, we have to be ready. I think if there's one lesson learned of the pandemic is that we've got to be ready to keep kids learning in school to the extent humanly possible, or obviously online. So we're the only province. We're the only province to have launched asymptomatic, to have launched an online learning system. So we feel that choice is so important to Ontario's parents. There are 9 other provinces out there looking to Ontario with envy that if God forbid that happened, we actually have a system in place where before school started, every teacher had to undergo professional development training on online learning, where we expanded and procured literally over 180,000 devices to help those that need tablets and computers to get online. We announced $1 billion in our budget to expand broadband to every town in this province. And we've expanded a high-speed internet to every high school as of this September. And we're on track to do every elementary school by the following September. So we are very committed to ensuring that we can pivot if God forbid we have to close schools again, as we did the first province and first jurisdiction in the industrialized world to do it in March. I don't want to do it again, but obviously if that is the advice of the Chief Medical Officer of Health, we're going to move quickly to keep kids and families safe. And yes, there is a clear expectation set out for live Zoom style learning 75% of the day, every day for learning. I set that standard because I believe, unlike the spring, kids deserve to be learning live. They deserve to have access to their teacher, and they deserve to have access to a community of kids, even if it's remote, even if it's online. At least gives them that social experience of seeing their friends, being able to talk, laugh, debate, have the normal parts of growing up as a child and being and developing as a young person. So that is critical. We believe strongly in online learning. It has been opposed by the Liberals and New Democrats. It's been strongly opposed by the unions. But I know parents want this, and I want you to know the government is firmly committed to implementing this and improving it every step of the way.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much, Minister, to taking the steps to giving an opportunity to our kids to study online and school-based system. I think this is the only province kids have the opportunity to choose and learn. It's very important for the kids. I have a question about the mental health of the people who are studying online. They are going through so much of stress. And do you have any special plans to handle those stressful situations or help them out to the well-being of their mental health?
Yeah, it's a really important question. We have expanded a mental health funding in this province by over $30 million during the pandemic alone. For context, under Kathleen Wynne, at the height of spending, she was spending $18 million on mental health in schools. We're spending over 30 just in the pandemic. Like we're talking about just the last 8 months. That's in addition to the funding that was already there, where we already doubled funding for mental health. This is a personal priority for so many of us that have family who've been afflicted by mental health and addictions. We created a standalone minister with a over $1 billion investment, part of a comprehensive roadmap to wellness to get young people the treatment they need to reduce the massive, unacceptable backlog for medical services that we inherited under the former Liberals, where you had kids waiting a year to see a psychotherapist. That is unconscionable. So we've hired hundreds of psychologists, hundreds of psychotherapists, hundreds of social workers, speech pathologists, so many supports in the schools to help these children get through a very difficult time. We've also extended some mental health supports for our staff as well, because we recognize it could be tough on them as well. So we're going to continue to invest in mental health. We're going to continue to act in schools. We're going to continue to act through a comprehensive network of supports for mental health. We just announced at CAMH, at the Center for Mental Health and Addictions and Mental Health, a major expansion, hundreds of beds for mental health supports. We announced an additional $13 million for funding through the Ministry of Health, specifically for young people, targeting organizations like Kids Help Phone and School Mental Health Ontario, these are incredible organizations we work with that provide supports and intervention for young people who need it. So it remains a priority for the Premier, for Minister Elliott. Rudy and I have both within our own communities with, Trillium Health, with so many partners, really spoken about the importance of this, and we'll continue to champion it. It is a top priority for this government, and we recognize our kids need it.
And
Yes.
somebody already asked you the question about lockdown, so I changed the question that. And actually, some medical expert has already said that it should not have a limit on the age for students who need to be put on face masks or not. They can start from kindergarten, just like a lot of Asian country and even some European country. Why we are not doing that?
Ray, by the way, are you in Toronto?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I appreciate the question. We're the only province in this country that has required masking as young as grade 4. Many provinces require it in hallways or, quote, when kids can't distance. We're the only province to say no matter what, grade 4 and up, you will mask, full stop. Obviously exceptions for special education kids, but the overwhelming majority of kids are wearing masks. Ray, in your community of Toronto, in mine in York, in Rudy's and Peel, many school boards have actually, we've given them the latitude to mandate masking below grade 4. So in Toronto, they've required masking for kindergarten and up, for example. We gave them the latitude as long as they consult their local public health officer. So in that case, Dr. Davila, she signed off on it and the school board made that decision, and we were comfortable with that decision. So the medical advice we receive from sick kids is grade 4 and up makes sense, but we're providing the latitude based on the circumstance on the ground. If the school board wants to do it, they can do it. In the case of the majority of boards in the GTA and Ottawa, et cetera, they are doing it as we speak. They've reduced it to grade 1, some to kindergarten, as you noted in Korea, Hong Kong and other jurisdictions. I believe Taiwan, we are seeing it amongst the young ages. So we took an approach of supporting masking, and I think masking has been an important intervention that is reducing transmission within the school. We're just committed to doing whatever it takes to keep schools open. So we will build up our plan. We lead, but we'll continue to build it up. We just announced new actions days ago. Expect more of that, and expect another investment, a major investment in safety within our schools. We're announcing another $380 million of funding over the coming weeks. So it's really going to help us protect schools and protect what matters, which is the safety of children, the safety of staff, and the communities across our province. So thank you for the time. I'd of course encourage you to promote the website for the Support for Learners initiative, just so that communities, to the point earlier, as was raised about speaking directly by Logan, in third languages, however you promoted it in English or your third language, but please promote ontario.ca/support for learners, just so that the people can get access to the money they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Minister. Bye.